I almost didn't show up that day. My car loan had just been denied, and I didn't even know why, until I found out my sister had used my name to take out a mortgage. Hi, I'm Jessica. And that wasn't just identity theft. That was betrayal. Signed, sealed, and approved under my name. Imagine discovering that someone you grew up with, someone who used to braid your hair and share your secrets, had forged your signature and almost destroyed your life to secure a loan she couldn't qualify for. Have you ever been stabbed in the back by someone you trusted the most? Because this isn't just a story about credit scores. It's about what happens when the quiet one finally speaks up, and what it takes to reclaim your voice, your name, and your home. Let's go back to where it all started, at a family barbecue, where I revealed the truth, and everything unraveled. The dealership's air conditioning fought a losing battle against the Texas sun, and I was losing patience faster than the coolant dripping from a Dodge outside. I sat across from the finance guy, mid-30s, overconfident, and sweating through his button-down, while he clicked through tabs like he was stalling for time. Finally, he looked up. "Miss Dorn, your application's been declined." My stomach dropped. "Excuse me?" He rotated the monitor toward me. "Your credit score took a 200-point dive last month. That triggered a denial flag. I figured you'd know." I didn't. But I damn well would. Driving home, the steering wheel was slick with heat and anger. My phone buzzed with a fraud alert I'd ignored last week, and suddenly it didn't seem like spam. When I got home, I ripped open my laptop, logged into my credit report portal, and stared at the screen like it was in another language. A $180,000 mortgage opened 3 weeks ago. My name was listed as a co-borrower. The property? My parents' house. The same one I'd helped keep afloat for years. The same one my sister Marley had insisted was hers to manage. I clicked into the loan documents. There it was. My name. My full legal signature. Except it wasn't my signature. At home, before I even grabbed water, I opened the drawer where I kept old tax folders. Buried between utilities and student loan docs was a copy of my signature from when I refinanced Dad's insurance after his first stroke. I placed it side by side with the loan application from the bank portal. The forgery was subtle, but not subtle enough for anyone who knew my handwriting. Marley had traced something old, something from the emergency folder in Mom's closet. I remembered watching her pretend not to notice those files when we were packing Dad's things. Guess she noticed after all. I called my mom. She didn't answer. I called Marley. Straight to voicemail. So I drove. Right back to the house I once called home. The one where I used to feel welcome. The one where Marley now played hostess, making herself look like the caretaker when in truth, she was the saboteur. When I arrived, the backyard looked like a catalog spread. String lights, curated furniture, and Marley in the center of it all, sipping wine like a suburban queen. Later that evening, I walked through the house like a visitor. The photo wall was the same, the outdated floral curtains. Even the faint smell of lemon pledge clung to the hallway like memory. But everything felt too curated now. The silence in the house wasn't peace. It was avoidance. My steps echoed a little louder than I remembered. I stepped into the yard just as she raised her glass in a toast. Her voice carried. To family? Especially the ones who know how to let go and grow up. People laughed. I didn't. I walked up, grabbed a plastic cup from the table, empty, and faced her. She saw me, smirked. "Jess. Didn't think you'd show." I tilted my head. "I almost didn't. Credit score tanked. Car loan denied. Funny how that happens when someone takes out a mortgage using your name." The laughter died. Her smile wavered. "You're being dramatic." "Want to see the documents?" I asked, pulling up the PDF on my phone. "Or should I show them to the loan officer tomorrow during their appraisal visit?" A cousin behind her nearly dropped his drink. Marley's face hardened. This is a misunderstanding. It always is. Until the police get involved. In the backyard, before things blew up, I'd noticed a little girl, Marley's coworker's kid maybe, whisper to her mother, "Why is that lady not happy if it's a party?" Her mom pulled her away, murmuring something about grown-up problems. I wanted to say, "Kid, you nailed it." The crowd didn't know where to look. Some stared at me, some at her. Mom appeared from the kitchen door, drying her hands. "Girls, ask your daughter," I said, without breaking eye contact with Marley. "Ask her if she forged my signature to secure a mortgage she couldn't qualify for on her own." Marley scoffed. "This is between us. Why are you making it public?" "Because you made it criminal." The moment I pulled up the mortgage document on my phone and confronted Marley, everything slowed. The lights above the pergola flickered slightly. The crowd didn't just go quiet. They froze. Forks hung in midair. A man holding a beer turned his back slightly, pretending to check a text. But everyone heard. Everyone processed. And no one came to her defense. I left before anyone else could respond. In the car, I called Riley Cortez, my old college friend turned financial attorney. "Riley," I said, "I need help. Someone stole my identity to take out a loan, and I think that someone is my sister." His voice didn't hesitate. "Come in tomorrow morning. Bring everything. We'll bury her with facts." Back at the dealership, I could now picture it. The finance guy sending a screenshot to his coworkers. Somewhere in that backroom chat I was probably redhead meltdown at desk 3. I almost laughed. Almost. When I got home that night, I stood in the dark for a while, the only light coming from the refrigerator filter. I stared at the sticky note Dad had left, in case they forget who kept the lights on. My fingers brushed the edge. Not anymore. The next morning, I stood on the porch of my childhood home, watching the neighborhood wake up while the weight of betrayal settled into my bones. I hadn't slept much. The images from last night kept looping, Marley's smirk, the hushed silence, the pergola lights flickering as the truth cracked open. But today wasn't for memories. Today was for proof. I knocked twice and let myself in. Mom's voice drifted from the kitchen. "You're up early." "I need to talk to Marley," I said. "Now." She hesitated, spatula in hand. "She's resting. Wake her." Mom's eyes narrowed slightly, like I'd stepped out of line, like I wasn't the one whose name was hijacked. But she called out anyway. Marley descended the stairs in a robe and full face of war paint, concealer, mascara, the whole disguise. She played casual, but I saw it. The twitch in her cheek when she spotted the folder in my hand. "You're early," she said. "You're fraudulent." She rolled her eyes. "Seriously?" I opened the folder. "Let's skip the banter. Here's the mortgage agreement. Here's my name. Here's a copy of my real signature." I pulled out an insurance form I'd signed 3 years ago when refinancing Dad's policy. "Compare them." She crossed her arms. "Signatures vary." "Not when they're traced." Mom tried to cut in. "Maybe we should talk calmly." "No," I said, voice steady. "Calm got me steamrolled. This is a felony." Marley scoffed. "Why would I even need your name?" I tapped the final page. "Because your debt-to-income ratio wouldn't qualify, and because you knew Mom wouldn't question it if it came wrapped in a lie." She didn't respond. I took photos of the document layout, including the timestamp and origination IP listed at the bottom. Riley had said that alone might be admissible. I left without another word. Before heading to the bank, I passed the old swing hanging from the oak in our front yard. Dad had put it up when we were 7. Marley never liked it, said the knots scratched her hands. I'd spent hours there growing up. Now it hung crooked, like it hadn't been touched in years, like something had gone lopsided and no one cared enough to fix it. At the bank branch across town, I met a clerk named Devin. Late 20s, polite, clearly uncomfortable once he saw what I was asking for. But protocol kicked in. "I'd like a copy of the full loan application that includes both cosigner and borrower signatures," I said, sliding over my ID. Sure. Give me a moment." Devin returned 10 minutes later with a printed stack. I flipped through until I found what I needed. Marley's name and mine, printed side by side. Her section signed in blue ink, mine in black. "Do you keep original signature captures on file?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "We do. Digitally. Can I see mine?" He hesitated, then turned the monitor around. A shaky, digitized scrawl. Not mine. "I'll need a certified copy of that screen, and a print of the access log." Devin blinked. "Are you building a fraud case?" "No," I said. "I'm finishing one." While waiting, I heard one of the tellers whisper behind the divider. "Isn't that the girl whose sister made the news for a mortgage scam?" I didn't correct her. Yet. Back home, Marley was nowhere to be seen. But Mom hovered like smoke. "Do you really need to do this?" "I needed to keep my name," I said, not harshly, just honestly. She used it like a coupon. That night, I sat on my bed surrounded by papers. I arranged each item like puzzle pieces. The fake signature. The cosigner agreement. The photo of my real signature. A scan of the sticky note Dad left. A photo of the house exterior with timestamp, each one a nail. Back home, I found an old copy of our family Christmas card wedged behind a drawer. The photo was from 5 years ago, before Dad got sick. Marley had scribbled on the back, "Next year, we'll be millionaires." I flipped it over and slid it into the folder. Exhibit irony. Riley's follow-up came with a voice memo. "Jess," he said, voice calm but tight. "Keep your head cool. She's already hanging herself. You just need to hold the rope steady." Around midnight, I got a message from Riley. "Appraiser arrives Saturday at 4 p.m. Don't tip her off. Let her dig her own hole." I stared at the mirror one last time before sleeping. The sticky note fluttered slightly from the fan, like even paper couldn't sit still in this storm. She forged. "I finished this." I used to think silence was a strategy. Now I understood it was just space they used to rewrite my story. By Friday morning, my plan wasn't a plan. It was a sequence. I didn't need to scream. I just needed to show up. The garage was musty and half forgotten, smelling of oil, dust, and old truths. In the back corner behind 3 stacked bins labeled Xmas and Dad's tools, I pulled out a locked drawer from an old filing cabinet. The key was still taped to the bottom. Inside were tax receipts, maintenance records, and 3 repair invoices signed by me. Every nail I paid for. Every pipe I replaced, while Marley posted from brunch. Back inside, I laid out the documents like I was building a case. Because I was. When I heard her laughter drift from the living room, light and artificial, I knew she was talking to the appraiser. She called her Han, showed her the updated backsplash, described the roof. We had redone last year. Though it had been me who negotiated the estimate, paid the contractor, and took time off work to supervise it. I placed a small camera on the bookshelf and pressed record. She didn't notice me at first. She was too busy gesturing like a real estate agent on a TV show, but when she spotted me, her voice wavered. "Oh, this is my sister Jess. She helps. Sometimes." I stepped into frame. "Actually, I'm the one who paid for the roof." The appraiser, Ms. Peyton, paused mid-note. "Oh?" Marley's smile strained. "It was a joint effort. Only one of us wrote checks." Marley tried to shift, guiding the appraiser to the dining room. "Let me show you the original hardwood. Dad insisted we keep them." The camera caught it all. As I waited by the staircase, I heard Marley guiding the appraiser toward the upstairs bathroom. We remodeled this in 2019, gutted it down to studs. My contractor nearly cried at the tile costs. She bragged. It was a lie. I still had the call log with the plumber who showed up after she ignored the leak for a week. I paid him cash when the water soaked through the ceiling above Dad's bedroom. Ms. Peyton took notes, but she wasn't nodding anymore. I passed the den and noticed a frame tipped backward. I lifted it. A photo of Dad in his recliner, laughing, holding his favorite mug. On the back, my handwriting from years ago. December 2017, before everything cracked. The glass had a hairline fracture across his face. Later that day, I met Riley at his office. Sleek, quiet, no wasted energy, just like him. She's presenting herself as the owner, I said. To the bank. She's setting herself up, he replied. All we need is to let her walk into it. I've got the video, I said, handing him a flash drive, plus these, copies of every payment I made, scanned contracts, inspection reports. He clicked through the files, nodding slowly. This isn't just going to disqualify the loan, this is going to expose the whole lie. At Riley's office, I asked him, what if this goes to court? He looked up. Then we bury her in her own words. Jess, you've built a paper trail so tight she'll hang herself just explaining it. Back at the house, Marley was on the phone in the kitchen, laughing again. Her voice dropped low, but I caught the words. She's clueless. As long as she doesn't say anything, we're good. She turned around and froze when she saw me. I didn't flinch. Just walked over, picked up the tea kettle I'd bought, and started filling it like she hadn't spoken. That night, I listened back to the camera footage. Every word, every exaggerated claim. And in the background, a moment I hadn't noticed. Ms. Peyton glancing at me twice, then jotting something beside Marley's name. An asterisk. That asterisk was everything. Saturday came fast. I wore navy. No patterns, no distractions. Just like always. Marley was in heels, hair curled, outfit coordinated with the kitchen color palette. She handed out bottled water like a hostess. I waited by the door. Ms. Peyton arrived at 4:02. Marley greeted her like an old friend. So glad you could make it. I know Saturdays are busy. I always make time for due diligence, Ms. Peyton said. They walked the house while I stayed silent. Until they reached the porch. This deck? Marley beamed. We had it reinforced after some weather damage, took care of everything. I stepped out. She means I took care of it. I have the receipt, and the permit is under my name. Have you ever spoken your truth, only to be met with denial or dismissal? That ache when someone tries to erase what you built. If that's ever happened to you, leave a comment number 7 below. Let's see how I hold my ground next. Ms. Peyton turned. Is that accurate? Marley hesitated. Well, we both. I'm the only legal owner, I said. Would you like to see the deed? Ms. Peyton blinked. Actually, yes. I handed her a folder I'd tucked behind a flower pot. She flipped through the notarized document, my name bold and clean. She looked at Marley, then me. We'll need to reevaluate this file. I nodded. I figured. Back at the house, I saw the swing again. It moved slightly in the wind. This time, I imagined Dad pushing it. Not for me. For justice. Quiet, steady justice. That night, I overheard a neighbor on the other side of the fence. Is that the sister who got accused of mortgage fraud? He whispered. His wife hushed him, but I didn't correct him either. Inside, I pulled out the Christmas card again, the same one Marley signed with a gold marker. Success is the only revenge. I slid it into the back of the folder. Riley messaged me. After tomorrow, no one will ask if it's your house. They'll ask why they ever doubted. I left the light on in the hallway that night. I wanted the truth to feel welcome again. Saturday afternoon arrived with the kind of thick humidity that clung to your skin like guilt. I wore navy again. Clean lines, no statement, just presence. My hair was tied back, sharp and out of the way. This wasn't a performance. It was a presentation of facts. At 3:40 p.m., I sat on the porch steps, watching the last rays of sun melt across the lawn. Inside, I heard Marley's voice float through the windows, bright and theatrical. This backsplash? Imported from Spain, worth every cent. Lies had never sounded so curated. Ms. Peyton, the appraiser, arrived at exactly 4:02 p.m., clipboard in hand, blazer pressed, eyes scanning everything with quiet efficiency. Marley greeted her like they were old sorority sisters. "We're thrilled to have you, it's such a special property." I stayed out of the way, seated near the porch railing. I didn't need to hover. Not yet. Marley walked her through the foyer with sweeping hand gestures, explaining details she'd memorized, but never lived. "We renovated the roof in 2020, full replacement. Had to fight the city on permits, but I handled it." Handled nothing. I had the permits and the contractor receipts in a folder waiting under the flower pot. I followed them from a distance, invisible but intentional. Each room Marley claimed I had documentation to counter. The window she said was custom? I'd fought the HOA for approval. The porch she said they'd reinforced? I'd paid the deposit and met the inspector twice. In the living room, I caught the tail end of a lie mid-flight. "We inherited the house after my father passed, but I've maintained everything. I make sure Mom has what she needs." She left my name out like it never existed. Like the nights I stayed up managing invoices while Dad slept hooked to oxygen didn't happen. Like the mold I cleaned out of the walls was just a chapter she could delete. After Ms. Peyton stepped into the house, I stayed close to the sliding door. From there, I could hear nearly everything. Her neutral tone, Marley's rehearsed charm. The farther they walked, the deeper my breath sat in my chest. Every word Marley spoke was like she was painting over my fingerprints. I remembered installing that back porch light myself the night before Dad's first surgery. The screws kept slipping. He'd sat by the window giving commentary like a sportscaster. "Look at her go. Girl's got more grit than both her siblings combined." He'd laughed, then coughed. When I passed by the kitchen, I caught Mom standing there, hands gripping a dish towel like it was a lifeline. She didn't say a word. Her eyes tracked Marley, then me. I wondered if she saw the storm in real time, or if she still thought she was sheltering everyone by saying nothing. Marley's voice carried from the upstairs landing. "And this is the guest room we refurnished last spring. Jess stayed here for a bit while she sorted things out." I froze. Sorted things out? I gave up 2 years of promotions to stay in this house, to bathe our father, to unclog drains when the water backed up into the walls. I wasn't sorting things out. I was saving them. Back outside, the sun caught the brass plaque I'd tucked inside my folder. I hadn't mounted it yet, but it gleamed in the slant of golden hour like it was already claiming its place. As they came back toward the front door, a neighbor from 2 houses down waved politely across the fence. I heard him whisper to his wife, "Guess they're finally selling, huh?" She whispered back, "No, I think the quiet one owns it. The other just acts like it." I didn't smile, but I didn't correct her either. When they reached the patio, Marley gestured to the deck. "We had this rebuilt last spring. Took some planning, but I like to be thorough." I stepped forward. "She means I rebuilt it," I said, calm. "Permits under my name. I paid the crew directly. Would you like a copy?" Ms. Peyton looked up. "Yes, please." I reached under the planter and pulled out the folder. The official kind, with clipped corners and a notarized deed. I handed it over. Marley's jaw clenched. "This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I replied, "considering the loan application includes my name." Peyton's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" "She forged me as co-signer," I said. Didn't think the bank would verify when it came from inside the house. The silence that followed wasn't shocked. It was careful. I have the original deed, I added. I'm the sole legal owner. She lives here rent-free. Marley's voice trembled, trying to find footing. This is a misunderstanding. Family tension. Peyton flipped through the folder. This isn't aligned with the documents we received. It's not aligned with a lot of things, I said. They stood in that uneasy silence while the cicadas hummed. Peyton finally nodded. We'll pause processing until we review this. I nodded. Smart. When they left the porch, Marley grabbed my arm. Her grip was too tight for show. You're ruining everything. I'm revealing it, I said. She let go like I burned her. Inside, Mom stood near the fridge, eyes glossy. She hadn't said a word the entire time. She just stood there, watching the air change. That night, I sat in the den alone. I watched the string lights outside sway. The camera had captured every moment. The tour, the lies, the look on Peyton's face. Riley called around 9:30. Loan review is on hold. Bank's legal team has questions. Good, I said. You're doing this right, Jess. I'm not doing it for revenge, I answered. I'm doing it for proof. He paused. That's what makes it stick. I stayed up late, sorting files again. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to make sure that this time, the story stayed intact. For the first time, I wasn't afraid someone would rewrite it behind my back. I had the pen now. The calm after the storm is the most deceptive kind. It's not peace. It's silence, waiting to be broken. By Monday morning, the atmosphere in the house felt like paper stretched too tight. One more tug and it would rip. Mom moved around slowly, eyes down, lips pursed as if she didn't want to touch either side of the truth. Marley barely left her room. Meanwhile, I built my war room in the den. Every document, recording, email chain, receipt, labeled, ordered, and ready. Riley had requested I prepare a summary packet to submit to the bank's fraud division. I didn't flinch. I wanted them to know everything. Marley's voice was quieter now. No more performative phone calls. No clinking wine glasses with her brunch crew. She was running out of script. That afternoon, I received a message from Riley. Review committee set for Friday. They're asking if you'd like to attend virtually. I typed back, yes. I want to hear her explain it. Marley didn't know yet, but she could sense it. She cornered me in the hallway the next morning, eyes wild. What are you trying to prove? That I'm not invisible. You're obsessed. No, I said. I'm documented. She laughed, sharp and bitter. You really think they'll believe you? I mean, look at me. Look at you. I did, I said. And I stopped apologizing for being the one who stayed. Have you ever been pushed aside, then blamed for standing tall when it finally mattered? That moment when you stop asking for a seat and build your own table. If that hit home, leave a comment number 9 below. Now let's watch what happens when I take the mic. She blinked, then stormed off, slamming the door. The sound echoed like punctuation. Wednesday evening, I overheard Mom on the phone with Aunt Teresa. No, I don't know what's going to happen. She says she owns the house, but Marley had her reasons. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. My name wasn't mentioned. Just she. Later, when I asked Mom if she believed I forged the accusation, she said, I just want the family to be okay. I wanted that too, I replied. Until I realized someone had to be uncomfortable for anything to be fair. Thursday, a thick envelope arrived addressed to Marley. It was from the bank. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. That night, I found her pacing the backyard. The string lights above buzzed faintly, and her phone screen glowed against her pale face. You don't have to destroy me, she said, without turning around. I didn't, I said. But I also didn't build you on stolen credit. She turned, furious. You're self-righteous. That's worse. No, I said. I'm just tired of whispering in a house I paid for. She threw her phone at the grass. It didn't crack. But something else did. Friday came, and I logged into the virtual hearing room 5 minutes early. Riley sat next to me in silence. Across the screen were 3 officials, 2 men and a woman, from the bank's internal audit department. Marley's video feed blinked on. She wore beige and mascara. Her voice was honeyed. She greeted the committee like she was auditioning. They began. Ms. West, one of them said, you submitted this mortgage application with co-signer, Jessica West. Can you explain her involvement? Marley smiled tightly. She's my sister. She lived in the house. I assumed we shared it. You assumed shared ownership? The woman asked. Yes. In practice. Not on paper. I clicked unmute. That's incorrect. I have legal title, notarized. She didn't inform me of this application. I have never co-signed anything with her. Riley forwarded documents live. Each one lit up on the committee's shared screen like fireworks. The deed, repair bills, co-signer forensics, and a scan of my signature for comparison. Marley's expression faded frame by frame. The lead auditor asked, So Ms. West? Jessica, do you allege fraud? I do, I said, and I have evidence. Silence. Then, this application will be frozen pending legal review. You may wish to obtain counsel. Marley's feed went black before they signed off. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt seen. That night, Mom left a note by my door. Not an apology, just a sentence. Don't forget to breathe. I folded it carefully and placed it in the same drawer as Dad's sticky note. Next to it, I left my own. Being quiet was my survival. Speaking is my power. Saturday morning arrived quiet but not still. I opened the blinds in Dad's old room. The light landed on the dust like a slow memory. His old clock still ticked faintly on the dresser, though no one had wound it in months. I sat on his side of the bed. The springs groaned, and I pulled open the drawer he never let anyone touch. Inside, I found a folded note in his handwriting. Don't let them talk over you. Not again. No date. No explanation. Just 8 words, more weighty than a will. Downstairs, Deline appeared at the doorway. She didn't knock. She just handed me a manila folder. I figured you'd want these, she said. Copies of the house's original insurance documents, signed only by you. She tried to swap the file with a doctored version. I stopped her. I met her gaze. It held no judgment, only confirmation. During the virtual hearing, I noticed a sound most people would have missed, the ticking of Marley's wall clock behind her. Steady, loud. And then, after I said the word fraud, it stopped. Or maybe I just couldn't hear it anymore. Silence has its own acoustics. That evening, as the sun dipped, I walked past the front garden. A child's voice called out from across the street. Hey, my mom says you own that house. I smiled just a little. She's right. In my room, I laid Dad's note beside Mom's. Then I lit the candle he once gave me when I was 15 and too afraid to sleep alone. It smelled of cedar and orange peel, memory and clarity. I sat in silence for a full minute before writing one more sentence and taping it to the inside of the closet door. I stayed. I saw. I proved. The morning after the final letter from the bank came, the house was quieter than ever. Not empty, just still. The kind of stillness that doesn't ask for permission. It simply settles, like dust, into every corner that was once full of noise. Marley had left the night before. No ceremony, no apology. Just the muffled slam of her trunk, the ignition and the red curve of taillights folding into the dark. I watched from the top of the stairs, one hand gripping the rail, not in shock, not in sadness, just in witness. I didn't follow. I didn't speak. I let the silence speak for me. By midday, the sky cracked open in a soft drizzle. The rain tapped the windows like memory trying to get in. I brewed tea in the same chipped mug Dad used to favor, blue rim, faded pattern. As the water boiled, I looked out the window and saw the neighbor, Mrs. Porter, waving from her porch. She didn't ask anything, just raised her cup. I nodded back. Mom hadn't said much either since the hearing. She walked slowly through the house, hands brushing the walls like they might disappear. At lunch, she placed a bowl of soup in front of me, then sat down across the table. No eye contact. But she said, "You really did all of this, didn't you?" I didn't answer right away. "You paid for the HVAC, the insurance, the taxes." Still, I didn't speak. Finally, she looked up. I should have asked more questions. I offered her a spoon. It's not too late to start. That evening, I began cleaning the rooms Marley left behind. It wasn't about removing her. It was about reclaiming space. In the upstairs closet, behind some unused gift wrap rolls, I found a torn envelope addressed to me. Inside, a sticky note in Marley's handwriting. "I never thought you'd go through with it." No apology, no signature. Just that one sentence, like a confession wearing a costume. I folded it and slid it into the back of the drawer with the others. By Thursday, I had changed the locks. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because I finally understood that ownership didn't just mean paper. It meant boundaries. It meant choosing peace, even when others call it silence. Deline came by that afternoon, holding 2 paint samples. I figured the guest room could use a new coat. We painted in quiet sync, not because we had nothing to say, but because there was nothing that needed to be said out loud. Somewhere between the first stroke and the third, I felt something loosen. Not the pain, not the memory, just the weight of being unseen. That night, I pulled out the photo of Dad and me again, the one where we're laughing with ice cream cones. I finally placed it in a frame, a real one, glass and all. I set it on the mantel, above the plaque I'd mounted a week earlier. Legal owner. Since 2021. But now it wasn't just legal, it was lived. Sunday came like a slow breath. I opened every window in the house and let the spring air drift through. The wind lifted the curtains like the house was finally exhaling. Mom wandered into the living room. She saw the photo. She touched the frame. Her fingers paused on the glass. "He loved you so much," she whispered. "I know," I said. She looked at me then. Not through me, not past me. At me. For the first time in a long time. "Don't let us forget again." I shook my head. "I won't." That evening, a few cousins stopped by. One brought cookies. Another helped me lift the old trunk from the attic. They didn't say much, but their presence said enough. Recognition doesn't always come with a speech. Sometimes it walks in carrying lemon bars and a quiet apology. Before bed, I walked the perimeter of the house barefoot. The grass was soft, cool. Fireflies blinked in the garden like the past winking back. The oak tree at the fence line had shed a few branches. I gathered the smallest one and left it near the porch. A marker. A keepsake. A root. I didn't do this for revenge. I didn't even do it for victory. I did it because the house remembers. And now, finally, so does everyone else. Later that night, I found myself wandering into the attic. The air was heavier there, full of dust and echoes. I pulled the chain on the single bulb and let the light buzz to life. Old boxes lined the walls, labeled birthdays, taxes, Christmas. I knelt beside one marked simply, Dad. Inside, among faded receipts and loose screws, was a small wooden box with a brass clasp. Inside the box were clippings, newspaper articles about housing fraud, eviction rights, estate law. His handwriting was in the margins, notes, questions, highlights. He'd known. He'd tried to understand what he couldn't protect me from. There was a photo tucked inside the lid. Me, maybe 14, standing in front of the porch with paint on my cheek. He'd written under it, "She builds what others forget." The attic light flickered. Not out. Just enough to remind me memory isn't static. It flickers until someone decides to keep it lit. The next morning, I invited Mom to take a walk. Just the two of us. We passed the park where Dad used to jog. The benches were empty, damp from overnight dew. As we walked, she stopped suddenly. "I used to think silence was safer," she said. "But I watched it rot the center of this family." I nodded. "Maybe I didn't know how to protect you. Maybe I just didn't want to lose both of you at once." "You didn't," I said. She reached for my hand and didn't let go. That afternoon, Deline returned with her old toolbox. "Let's fix the squeaky gate," she said. We didn't just fix the gate. We cleaned the gutters. We patched the screen door. Each task was like stitching a tear in a family quilt. Unspoken repairs, but solid ones. When evening came, I lit the porch lantern. The brass plaque beneath it caught the glow in full. Legal owner since 2021. But this time, I added another plate beneath it. Smaller, engraved with 3 words, built with silence. It wasn't shame, it was truth. Before bed, I added one final piece to the inside of my closet door. Next to, "I stayed," I saw, I proved. I taped a printout of that photo from the attic. I stood there a moment longer, hand resting on the wood. The house didn't feel haunted anymore, just remembered. And I finally knew the difference. Today, I live in a house no longer built just from brick and beams, but from truth, and the silence that no longer defines me. Everything around me looks the same. The old photo, the chipped mug, the way the sunset filters through the curtains. But I'm not the same. I'm no longer the shadow in my own story. I've learned that silence might protect you once, but only truth will protect you forever. When you stand up, not out of vengeance, but out of dignity, the world has no choice but to listen. Those who steal without remorse will lose far more than they bargained for. And you, if you endure, will reclaim your name, your home, and the voice they tried to erase. What about you? Have you ever had something rightfully yours stolen, or been forced to fight for what should have been respected all along? Share your story in the comments. Your voice could be the light someone else needs to find their way back to themselves. If you believe in stories about truth, justice, and the strength it takes to rise again, subscribe to this channel. More powerful stories are on the way.